Hi, Year 11. Really sorry that I can't be in your lesson. My son is having to self isolate, so I'm at home with him. However, I will try and be in for at least one of your lessons this week. We are looking at another extract this lesson, and we're concentrating on instances of friendship within the play. You should have hopefully all had the extract. It's from the play just before they arrive at the Capulets' ball. So we have Benvolio, we have Romeo, and we have Mercutio. And we obviously, as we read through, you're going to pause the video, but do be thinking about how they typify their names. That Benvolio is benevolent and good and kind, and Mercutio is mercurial and changes quickly. Romeo, we see the romantic side of his character. So I'm going to get the video to be paused while, as a class, you read through it. But bear in mind the question as you go through: how is friendship shown in the extract? Okay, off you go. So now you have read the extract. Think about non-family relationships as a whole in the play as well. And when you're doing that, I want you to pick ideas that you haven't written much about already. So if you've already written a lot, for instance, about Romeo and the Friar, which you should have, or you've written a lot about Juliet and the nurse, look elsewhere in the play. Don't repeat yourself. Make sure that your references to the play are as wide ranging as you can make them in all your essays, because that will be the best revision for you. So I am begging you not to be repetitive. Let's think about some of the ideas that we could cover in the extract. If you're feeling really confident and you don't feel you need any help with this, I am perfectly happy for you to just go through the extract yourself, brainstorm your ideas and be ready to start writing. If you're feeling a little bit less familiar with the play, or think you might just want to check in that your answers line up with mine, then have a listen to this bit. So I've got the idea of the platonic relationship, obviously coming from Plato as a reference. We could bring that in as a little bit of AO3, the context, but we've got the idea that within this friendship, characters are showing genuine love and affection and regard for each other. So for instance, when Benvolio says, "Nay, gentle Romeo, we must have you dance," he talks to him in a friendly way, calling him gentle Romeo. He wants him to forget how woebegone he's feeling. He wants him to genuinely throw himself into the ball because he has been so worried about Romeo's mood and feelings for the rest of the play. I also think we could talk about how Romeo feels happy to have that melancholy side to his character revealed to his friends. So it suggests sort of closeness and an openness, and also that he feels that they are likely to receive his his information in a way that will make him feel better. And he does talk about being under love's heavy burden, or asks rhetorically, is love a tender thing? Uses, is it too rough, too rude, too boisterous? It pricks like a thorn. It's a great moment to bring in some other AO3. You could talk about him as the courtly lover or Petrarchan lover, and how that is being gently mocked within the friendship that's shown in this scene. We also have the bandage, which shows, I mean, obviously in the real world you would use the word banter, but I just think that's a tiny bit informal for an English essay. So I wanted to show that the friendship, Shakespeare's showing the light relief through the friendship, and it also provides a fantastic contrast for later in the play. And we see friendship is really important here to Romeo and his friends, but later seeing him dismiss it almost, that it's being usurped by how much he loves Juliet. So I think that's something that you could maybe bring in. A fourth idea, and do bear in mind that you're not going to have enough time to develop all of these possibly within one essay. So do prioritise and pick the ones that you feel you can bring in AO1, AO2, AO3 most effectively. You could also put about Mercutio feeling he can tease Romeo. There's some fantastic wordplay that you can include, and also think about the analysis that that will provide. So you might want to pause the video for a moment while you just decide what you're prioritising from the extract before we move on to thinking about what we would have for the second bullet point for the development in the rest of the play. Okay, so moving on to the development. Again, if you're feeling confident, now is the time that you just finish your plan with the developed ideas in and start writing. However, if for your plan you need a few more pointers, it might be worth listening and looking at this slide. So obviously when we're developing our ideas, we're taking the ideas that we've had from the first bullet point, and we're showing that we can range far across the play and bring in other ideas. We might want to show that they complement or reinforce an idea, or we might want to show a development or a contrast. So be thinking about how you're going to balance your ideas from the extract with further development from the play. So let's hone in on other places we're seeing friendship being portrayed in Romeo and Juliet. We've got Act 1, Scene 1. Benvolio initially talks to Lord Capulet about Romeo, and then he has the exchange with Romeo himself. Fantastic opportunities for AO2 in that moment. And also, if you haven't brought in any mention of him being a courtly lover, it would be the chance to bring that in there. Brilliant moment for a mention of Petrarch. Think about Juliet and her nurse, the friendship she's shown there. If you've already written about that recently, definitely leave that one. You've got the Volta in Act 3, Scene 1. We really see the loyalty and the intense emotion that is provoked between these three characters. That Romeo is the person who sort of loses his cool and kills Tybalt. If, however, you've written about that scene very recently, leave that one or that particular moment in it and pick another moment in Act 1, Scene 1. Also think about the separation between the three friends at the start of Act 2, so just before the balcony scene. We are seeing that Romeo is not prioritising his relationship with his friends, he's prioritising his relationship with Juliet. It's very much gals before pals now for Romeo in the play. So what you're aiming for essentially is to end up with approximately 4 or 5 paragraphs with a decent balance of AO1, AO2 and AO3. Do remember what I said about AO3 last lesson? It does not need to be sort of forced into every single paragraph. You know when you see someone and they're sort of massively over accessorized and you just wish they would take off like one bangle or one set of earrings. Try and see your context like that. Like you do not need all of it everywhere all the time. Make it nuanced and subtle and integral, but don't overdo it. It's only worth 6 marks, AO1, AO2, each worth 12. I would like you to hand in your work at the end of the lesson so I can see what you're doing. I probably won't be giving individual feedback written on essays, but what I will do is start one of our lessons this week with general feedback about where you need to improve. So I really appreciate you all working independently so you know what you're doing coming up to the assessment. You don't want your first completely independent piece of writing on Romeo and Juliet to be the one that we assess. And also it allows me to see where there are any gaps that I need to address with individual people. So please do your best. If you do not finish, don't panic. Work as hard as you can throughout the lesson. Hand them in. And by some magical system, I am going to get the essays home to me so I can look at them this evening and give you some feedback. Hope that makes sense to everybody. I am going to be on Teams throughout the lesson, so if there's anything that hasn't been explained, there will be a chance for you to ask me. So essentially, write the plan, write the essay as much as you possibly can in the remainder of the lesson, hand it in at the end of the lesson. Okay, see you soon. Thank you. Bye.